Today we are going to talk about the most difficult subject in economics. We are not going to talk about how to get rich. That is the easy part. We are going to talk about how to not be poor. That is the hard part. Most people think poverty is a lack of money. They are wrong. Poverty is not a number in a bank account. Poverty is a gravitational force. It is a trap. It is a closed loop system designed to keep you inside, spinning your wheels until you run out of energy and die. I call this the physics of poverty. If you want to understand why you are stuck, you have to understand rocket science. When a rocket tries to leave the Earth, it fights against gravity. To reach orbit, it must hit a specific speed. We call this escape velocity. If the rocket uses 99% of the fuel required but does not hit that specific speed, do you know what happens? It does not get 99% of the way to the moon. It falls back to Earth and it crashes. This is exactly what happens to the working class. You work hard, you save a little bit of money, you try to climb out of the hole, you get halfway up the wall, and then something happens. Your car breaks down, you get sick, the rent goes up. Gravity kicks in, and because you did not reach escape velocity, you fall all the way back to the bottom. Actually, you fall lower than before because now you are discouraged. Now you are tired. Now you have less fuel. This is why working a little bit harder does not work. In the physics of poverty, linear effort produces zero results. You need exponential effort to break the gravitational pull. You need to understand that the system is rigged against you, not because of a conspiracy, but because of mathematics. Poverty is expensive. When you are poor, everything costs more. You cannot buy in bulk, so you pay a higher unit price for food. You cannot afford good boots, so you buy cheap boots that break every year. You cannot afford a good dentist, so you wait until the tooth rots and you have to pay for a root canal. This is called the Vimes-Boots theory of socioeconomic unfairness. The system charges you a penalty for being poor. It charges you late fees. It charges you overdraft fees. It charges you high interest rates because you are a risk. So you are running a race with a heavy backpack while the rich are running with the wind at their backs. And here is the most dangerous part. Poverty is not just external. It is internal. When you are in this trap for too long, it changes your brain. It rewires your neural pathways. It puts you in a state of constant fight or flight. Your IQ literally drops. You stop planning for 10 years from now and you start worrying about 10 minutes from now. You become reactive, not proactive. This is the poverty loop. Low income leads to stress. Stress leads to bad decisions. Bad decisions lead to no assets. No assets lead to low income. Round and round it goes. A perfect vicious circle. But there is a way out. The laws of physics can be broken if you have enough force. In this video, we are going to reverse engineer this trap. We are going to look at the 5 specific chains that are holding you down. We are going to talk about the scarcity tax that drains your brain. We are going to talk about the dopamine trap that steals your cash. We are going to talk about the linear income trap that wastes your time. And finally, I am going to show you how to build your own engine, how to generate the escape velocity needed to leave the atmosphere of poverty forever. Once you break orbit, everything changes. The friction disappears, the silence comes, and you can finally fly. But first we have to survive the launch. Let's begin the countdown. Let us enter the first loop. I call this the scarcity tax. Most people think that if you give a poor person money, their problems are solved. But if you give a lottery winner millions of dollars, they are often broke again within 3 years. Why? Because poverty is not just a lack of cash, it is a lack of cognitive bandwidth. There was a famous study done by Senthil Mullainathan at Harvard. He found that when your mind is consumed by financial stress, when you are worrying about how to pay the rent or how to fix the car, your effective IQ drops by 13 points. 13 points. That is the same effect as going without sleep for 24 hours. Or being a functional alcoholic. This means that when you are poor, you are literally operating with a damaged processor. You are trying to solve complex long-term problems with a brain that is in survival mode. You cannot see the future because you are too busy fighting the present. This is the scarcity trap. When you have limited bandwidth, you make bad decisions. You take the high-interest payday loan because you need cash now. You buy the unhealthy food because it is cheap and fast now. You are not stupid. You are just exhausted. And the system knows this. The system exploits this. Let me tell you about the Vimes-Boots theory. It goes like this. A rich man can afford to buy a pair of high-quality boots for $50. Those boots will last him 10 years, so his cost is $5 a year. A poor man cannot afford $50. He only has $10. So he buys a cheap pair of boots. But the cheap boots fall apart after 1 year. So next year he has to buy another pair for $10. And the year after that. Over 10 years, the poor man spends $100 on boots. The rich man spent $50. The poor man spent twice as much money and his feet were wet the entire time. This is the mathematics of being poor. It is expensive to be poor. You pay late fees. You pay overdraft fees. You pay higher interest rates. You buy small quantities of toilet paper because you cannot afford the bulk pack, so you pay more per sheet. The system charges you a premium for your lack of capital. So how do we break this first loop? How do we stop the bleeding? You need to build a buffer. Your first financial goal is not to get rich. It is not to buy a house. It is not to invest in the stock market. Your only goal is to save $1,000 or even $500. Put it in a separate account and do not touch it. This money is not for spending. This money is for buying back your brain. When you have a buffer, the car breaking down is just an inconvenience. It is not a disaster. When you have a buffer, you don't have to take the payday loan. You don't have to pay the scarcity tax. You stop reacting to emergencies and you start managing them. That $1,000 buys you something more valuable than gold. It buys you cognitive bandwidth. It restores your IQ. It allows you to sleep. It allows you to look up from the ground and see the horizon. Most people try to jump straight to investing. They skip this step. They are trying to build a skyscraper on a swamp. You must drain the swamp first. You must build the buffer. You must buy the boots that last 10 years. This requires sacrifice. It requires pain. For a few months, you might have to live like a monk, but you are doing it for a reason. You are buying your freedom from the scarcity tax. Now we enter the second loop. This is the most emotional one. I call this the dopamine trap. You have probably heard the criticism. People say, if you are poor, why do you have the newest iPhone? Why do you buy expensive sneakers? Why do you eat out when you have groceries at home? It is easy to judge from the outside, but let us look at the biology. When you are trapped in the poverty loop, your life is painful. Your cortisol levels, the stress hormone, are constantly high. You feel small, you feel invisible. Your brain is screaming for relief. It is screaming for a win. So when you walk into a store and buy that new pair of shoes or that branded handbag, your brain releases a hit of dopamine. For a few minutes, the pain goes away. For a few minutes, you feel successful. You feel like you matter. This is not spending. This is self-medication. You are using consumption as an anesthetic to numb the pain of your reality. But here is the trap. The relief is temporary, but the debt is permanent. The dopamine fades in 20 minutes. The credit card bill lasts for 20 years. This is the fundamental difference between how the rich and the poor view money. The poor see money as a way to buy pleasure. The rich see money as a way to buy freedom. When a poor person gets $500, they think, what can I buy with this? When a rich person gets $500, they think, how can I invest this? We call this assets versus liabilities. An asset puts money in your pocket. A liability takes money out of your pocket. If you buy a designer purse, that is a liability. It loses value the moment you walk out of the store. If you buy a share of stock, that is an asset. It works for you while you sleep. Most people in the low-income trap are drowning in liabilities. They have the nice car, the nice clothes, the subscriptions, the gadgets. They look rich, but they are bleeding wealth every single day. They are feeding the dopamine monster, but starving their future. So how do we break this loop? How do we detox? You need to enter monk mode. This is a period of radical elimination. It is not forever. It is a temporary reset for your brain's reward system. For the next 6 months, you cut everything. You cancel Netflix. You stop eating out. You stop buying clothes. You drink water instead of soda. You walk instead of taking Uber. You strip your life down to the bare essentials: food, shelter, and basic transport. It will be boring. It will be hard. Your friends might laugh at you. But you have to tell yourself, I am not poor. I am in training. When you stop getting your dopamine from spending money, your brain will start to rewire itself. You will start to find pleasure in seeing your bank account grow. You will start to get high on saving. And that is a different kind of dopamine. That is the dopamine of control. Once you realize that you do not need the new phone to be happy, you become dangerous. You become free because the system can no longer manipulate you with shiny objects. You have broken the addiction. Now we enter the third loop. This is the one that keeps you tired. I call this the linear income trap. Most people are taught